5 more questions. Camilla breathed, refocusing. 18 down, 5 to go. Judge Reisenauer looked tired. Everyone needed a respite from the recounting of Gilderman's antics, Camilla included. She couldn't care about that, though. Every person in this court would have to sit through all 23 of her prepared questions, because combined, the questions would tie up all the loose ends, making her case against this machete-wielding Neanderthal airtight, and the people of Yucca County deserved an airtight prosecution, for their own safety against drunks with tempers and machetes. Mr. Gilderman, the police have a recording of you. Are you aware of what it says? No response. It captures your voice saying, "I'm going to clock that buzzard Waldron with the hand of my granddad's machete and slice up his tires even if it's a government vehicle." Does that sound familiar to you? Is that something you would say? Gilderman kept his eyes on his lap. He shook his head. Please speak your response, sir. He refused. Okay, well, answer this. Does your granddad have a machete? Yes. Do you have access to it? Yes. Good. Gilderman was the best kind of criminal to prosecute and improve her conviction record. He had both a short temper and a conscience. He couldn't lie on the stand, but he also couldn't help making irrational threats and carrying them out against whoever got his goat that weekend at the bar. Sure enough, Waldron had turned up in the ER that night, knocked on the head by someone he said wielded a long, curved knife, and he'd had his tires sliced. Luckily, the whole threat had been captured on the bar's surveillance camera in the parking lot. The security there had installed audio a year ago at the county's request, and it had resulted in 4 of Camilla's recent convictions. Thank you very much, Advanced Security Measures at Drinky McFadderton's bar. Final question. Camilla walked back to the prosecution table and picked up the last slice of evidence, the most condemning of all. Take a look at this photo, Mr. Gilderman. The photo depicted the victim, Waldron, pressed out at the scene, his head on the gravel parking lot at Drinky McFadderton's. Beside his head lay the machete on the ground near the slashed tires. Is that your name carved in the handle of the machete, Mr. Gilderman? Yes, ma'am. Why Gilderman hadn't simply pled guilty in the first place boggled the mind. Apparently, some people just wanted their day in court. At the defense table, Gilderman's lawyer, a court-appointed regular, scratched the back of his neck in what looked like resignation. Poor guy. If he couldn't even prevent Gilderman from admitting guilt on the witness stand, he didn't stand a chance of getting an acquittal. 3 questions remained on Camilla's list, and the prosecution could tie a knot in the end of the string because Gilderman's case was sewn up. Mr. Gilderman, have you ever... Something glinted in the back of the courtroom, snagging her attention. Camilla's eyes strayed out into the crowd, and her voice trailed off. As she watched, a fog gathered around one spectator's face, and all the rest of the room faded into darkness. A choir from one of those Southern Baptist churches started to sing in her head, a low note that then soared to the heights of the audible range, with one soloist strumming the heavens with her vibrato. Hello, gorgeous! There in the back row, among a haze of other onlookers, sat a man with arms folded and eyes in the smolder she'd last seen when she happened past that clothing store in the mall menswear store and saw the photograph of the shirtless model who was supposedly selling shirts, but was selling something else that started with S, more effectively. That same smoky, half-lidded look arrested Camilla, stopping her mid-sentence. Sharp suit, broad shoulders, dark hair in one of those cuts that slicks up and over in front when the guy cares about how he looks. Not that he looked like he tried too hard. He looked like he wore his fabulousness with casual grace. Miss Sweeten, you were saying? Huh? Camilla blinked, barely hearing the question directed at her. She blinked again and the fog disappeared. Holy cats, she was still in court, and supposedly finishing up her line of questioning against Gilderman. Her throat filled with cotton, and her head with butterflies, refugees from her stomach a few moments ago, when they'd emerged from their years-long chrysalis upon seeing that face. That face now pulled a jaunty grin. He was laughing at her. All her clothes shrank. Everything went too tight on her shoulders, around her collar and stomach. Suddenly, Sheldon was at her side. Your Honor, my colleague will continue.